Today we'll be looking at the Kings of War 4th edition main rulebook. And is it any good? So at time of recording in December last year, or some people would argue late November last year, Kings of War 4th edition launched to great fanfare, and it was a pretty big deal. It kind of came out of nowhere. There were some flickers of, oh, there could be a 4th edition, but realistically speaking, no one was really saying anything, and it was just weird. There were some hints of something happening with Kings of War Champions, because as I've shown in some of the other videos, the champions all came with their little MDF bit of circle that apparently meant something. No one ever understood what it meant. I don't think anyone ever will until it's explained. I've got no idea. It was a nice icon, I suppose, but didn't do anything for me, I'm afraid. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. Still can't, I'm afraid. But anyway, the big black book this time is here, and one thing to note is that it's got this little thing. Yeah, the green book from 3rd edition, or original 3rd as I sometimes call it, I think did have this bookmarky affair and was hardback as well. I know the big red book of 3.5, as it was known, was not hardback. From what I gather, all the books for 4th edition are going to be hardback. We'll get to that later on, I believe, possibly in the first expansion book review, which will be coming at some point. Okay, so here's the contents page. It's pretty well done and gives a bit of credits down here. One thing to note is that it doesn't give contents to which army is on which page, which I don't understand why that is. It'd make more sense for each army to have its own page number, just to go, right, this army's on this page, right, go to this page. It just seems a bit weird, and they've never done that before. It's just, don't get it. One thing to note is this footnote at the bottom. This, I don't know how enforceable it is, and this has been noted before, but basically it's saying that you shouldn't really use AI for like copying any of this, or like generating anything from this using AI. And anyone who wants to use AI who gets mad about this, good, sod you. This is the first image you are granted with after the contents page, and the photography is pretty well done as far as I'm concerned. One thing to note about this one is that this army, the Trident Realm one, is not in the main rule book for rules wise. They are in the first expansion book, and you don't actually need the expansion book to play them. I mean, if you want the physical thing, then fine, but you don't have to. It just seems weird that they're actually in here when they're not actually in the main rule book as such. It's just, I don't know, it's just a weird thing I noticed. Page 4 and 5 is how you get started with dice, tape measures, and all the basic like. This is basically what you get in the 2-player set, bar the tape and whatnot, which is a shame there's no tape measure. There kind of should be. There's no character as well, which I suppose for your first game or so does make sense. It then goes into the rules. It gives examples of different units on page 8 and 9. And one thing to note is that it just shows regiment sizes. That's because on this page it shows you a regiment is made of 2 troops and a horde is made of 2 regiments. It It does get a bit confusing until you get to this page, but because it's very early on, easy to understand. One thing to know if you've played Kings of War before is that individuals on foot are on 40mm bases, and individuals that are mounted on, say, a horse or something are on 50mm bases. Sometimes this can look a bit weird, and unless you put other stuff on the base, it just makes the model look lost in the base. But this is more so that the champions from Kings of War Champions can actually integrate properly into Kings of War, well, properly, which, yeah, makes sense. And honestly, there's some heroes that actually work better on them base sizes, to be honest. On page 11, it shows the stat page, and it is very well laid out. It shows you what type means, what the stats mean, the traits which have replaced the keywords, as it were, because there were quite a lot of keywords which didn't actually do anything. Usually when it comes to traits, units will have one, sometimes they'll have two. I don't think there's any with 3 traits, I don't think. On page 12, it starts on with line of sight, and it's been made a lot simpler. It's not just from the it's not from the center point anymore. It's just from the front arc. So you've got a bigger line of sight for, say, charges and for shooting purposes, which is quite nice. On page 16, it starts off with the movement phase, which it's fairly easy to get into. One thing that I very much appreciate is this image. This image, I mean, this was here in 3rd edition, but this is something that was sorely missed. A lot of people was scared of doing this because, well, it's not something you really think about. But basically, you can move through friendly units, and this, well, kind of shows it. You've got a friendly unit here pivoting through another friendly unit. Again, it's using Trident Realm stuff, which, why it is not in the main rulebook, I don't know. It's just weird to me. In the movement phase, you've got different orders, such as going at the double, advancing, so on and so forth. One of these is charging, and you can do multiple charges, so you can have, I don't know, 3 units charging 1 unit. One thing that has mainly changed from this is that you can only have 2 units charging a unit on each facing. So this example here, it shows them at the front. Whereas you can have 2 at the side, so if you have 3 units that could potentially charge at the flank, only 2 of them could. Some people have complained about this, but to be honest, multiple charges ain't going to have more than 2 units usually anyway, you'll find. On page 22 and 23, 22 to 25, we have 2 newest move orders. Reform, which means you can wrap around units. Basic, and you can only do that when in combat. Basically, if you're in combat, you can move around from one side to the other. So if you're in the front, you can wrap around to the side to get some flank charging off. You won't be able to do this all the time, and in fact, if you've got multiple units charging in, you won't be able to do this. But it's still there, and it can help. And this gives you an example of wrapping around if you've got multiple units doing it. So both of these units have charged from the front, and now they're going to both wrap around to the side, so they're both getting flank attacks off, which is, yeah, I'd do that as well. And next we have withdraw, which is something that is very risky. How it works is that if you want to move away from an enemy, you have to do a nerve test, which is roll 2 dice and add how much damage you've taken. If you fail it, then you are off. The unit is confused. They are basically either run off or dead, and in that it's called routed, so that unit has been taken off. It's very risky, and only certain units can do it without it being a risk. but for the most units it's a big risk to do. So if you want to do it, fine, but just be careful on it. I'll just give a bit of a note for terrain. It gives clear and concise examples of terrain and how terrain works. And I'll just say now, in 3.5 edition they had obscured and concealed for cover purposes. They were basically the same thing. In 4th they have got rid of that. You are in cover and that's it. Why they put that in 3.5 in the first place, no idea. And it's gone. It was stupid to begin with. Didn't need to be in, and it's not. So breathe a sigh of relief. Stupid cover rule has gone. Next we come on to the range phase, and there's one main thing that's changed, and you'll mainly notice this in the stats. There's a modifier for standing and shooting. So if you don't move, you get a +1 bonus for shooting. Now, most units will have had their shooting value, what they need to actually hit things for shooting, reduced. So for example, a unit of archers may have their shooting value reduced from 4+ to 5+. So instead of needing a 4 or higher to hit, they need a 5 or higher. However, this is somewhat negated by the fact that if you stand still, it reverts back to 4s. And for a lot of units, this won't really have changed all that much, because a lot of the units won't need to have moved to be able to shoot accurately, because, well, usually they've got range. Some units will have to move just because of how they are, and it's a shame. It feels like they've been somewhat penalised, making them a bit more inaccurate, because they've got more mobile shooting weapons and a bit shorter range at that. But it is what it is. Honestly, it's not really gonna hurt all that much, if I'm completely honest. Next, on page 34 onwards, we've got the combat phase. And one thing that has really changed for combat is, I'll just go back, is that you can split your attacks. So if you've got, so this example here, say you've got a unit in combat with 2 units here, it can split its attacks so many here and so many here. And the example it's given, it's flanking this unit, so it could say, I don't know, 20 of its 30 attacks going here, and then the other 10 going here. These 20 attacks will be doubled to 40, and then these 10 attacks will just be 10 attacks. It's a nice change, and it's one that means that your unit, it might seem like it's going to be destroyed, but before it is, it'll cause a bit of damage beforehand. On page 40, we start with the nerve value, and a big thing to note here is units have only got 1 nerve value. Yes, no longer is wavered a big thing. Sort of. What I mean by that is shooting will not rout you unless you've taken a hell of a lot of damage. If you've taken at least over your nerve value in damage, then shooting can make you run off. Otherwise, it will just waver you as normal, which is just a failed nerve test on your nerve stat. Routing as normal is mainly for combat, and a lot of nerve stats have changed. Usually they've been increased a little bit here and there. There's also the fearless rule, which means you can't be wavered. So shooting isn't that effective against them. Still cause damage, but no nerve value. So no nerve test, essentially. On page 41 to 47, there are the special rules. Yeah, there's only 4 pages of special rules, and to be honest, that is a big thing. I mean, it means you're not having to go through so many pages, because it wasn't special rules bloat, as it were, but there was quite a lot. And with this cleanup, it does make things a hell of a lot easier. Some things have been changed somewhat, such as Thunderous Charge. If you are affected by Phalanx, then you remove all your Thunderous Charge, which, yeesh, Thunderous Charge only works when you charge, which it should have been from the beginning. I don't know why it wasn't, but no, I'm glad it's like that. I know it's going to make a lot of my units that I play, because I play Trident Realms and Ogres, it is going to make them suffer a bit, but I honestly think that's better overall, just for simplicity and, well, clarity and everything else. Some of the new special rules, for example, we've got Fearless, which when taking nerve tests, this unit counts wavering as steady. So yeah, if you're shooting a unit that's fearless and it's not devastated, which is it's got damage on over the amount of nerve it's got, don't bother shoot. I mean, shoot it cause damage, but other than that, don't bother with the nerve test. It's not going to do anything. Leaper just used to be a thing for the Trident Realms for ambush. Now it's a proper rule, which is great. I think it should be used for more armies, and now it can. What else have we got that's somewhat new? Retaliate is basically replacing what Fury was. This does mean that certain units and armies aren't going to be able to use Withdraw, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. Forces of the Abyss is the biggest example I can think of. Yeah, with Retaliate is really good. It's better than Fury. Starts the turn engaged with 2 or more enemy units. It gains Crush Strength 1. Any attacks it allocates for one of those enemy units, so split the attacks and softens the enemy up. Nice, like that. Yielding is a proper special rule now. It's not just for individuals, which I think it should be. It just means that you've got more leeway on how units are, and if you've got a unit that's absolutely pathetic, it can now count as yielding, such as, I don't know, the Orklings. I don't know if they've got yielding, but they might have. One thing to note is that the Twilightkin Bombard rule, that was for their flying skiffs, that is not a universal rule. Don't know why. That's just for them. I really don't know why. It should be a universal special rule, but yeah, that's just me. But again, I like the fact there's only 4 pages of it. On page 50 onwards, we have the magic, and it has been expanded. Certain magic has been expanded for all forces. There's an arcane library in the bit where you build an army to show the points of the spells. Certain spells are not arcane library. They will just be a option for that unit. Certain spells are arcane library, which will mean that they've just got a list in the arcane library list. All factions have got access to the arcane library. There's no this unit could take this spell. No, all armies and all spellcasters have got access to the arcane library spells, which is nice. There's quite a few pages, but it's not too bad. I mean, how many pages is there? 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's only 4 pages, so even though there's quite a few more spells listed here, it's all in one page, which is nice. On page 54 to 56, we've got the magic artifacts. There aren't as many, unfortunately, as there used to be. We've got on page 54 and 55 the common ones, which can be used for any units, and then on page 56 we've got the heroic ones, which can be used by heroes. It's a shame there's so little now, but it is what it is, unfortunately. But you still get some use out of them, I think. Some of them, it makes sense to be removed because there's only one nerve value, so having a thing that increases your wavering value does nothing, really. It's also taken off the thing where you've got 2 numbers for regiments and the second unit for horde/legions. It's just one specific points value, and that's just for all, which I think is better, to be honest. On page 62 and onwards, we've got Advanced Kings of War, which, yeah, fine. One thing to note on page 63 is Commander Orders, which is accessible for Warlords and Champions. We'll get to that when we come on to list building. But basically, each faction in the rulebook has 2 command orders, and you can cast them. You can give them to units if they are within 12 of a commander, a champion, or a warlord. A lot of these do include the army upgrade that used to be there, like the Throne Mastiff. These are better overall because now they can be used more than once in a game rather than just once in a game sort of thing. You do have to roll 2 dice for a champion or 3 dice for a warlord to see if they go off. So it's not quite as certain if they'll go off, but at least you've got more chances to do it. I suppose you could say that's the main reason why a lot of heroes cost a lot more points, because once we got to the army section, and when I do me reviews of the different factions, the different heroes will have cost a hell of a lot more points than they used to, and this is one of the main reasons why. On page 64 onwards, we've got the scenarios, and if you look at me Warpath rulebook review, it's got a similar sort of thing. So you roll to see what setup you could do if you've got the terrain, which one thing to note here is they kind of made ambush games a lot better. It's 1,000 points or less. Auxiliary units become core. All limited units, which are 0 units, become 1, so you've got a bit more options. No warlords or titans, which it's a bit of a shame, but kind of it is what it is. Back on track, it gives you the icons for what terrain is. So if you haven't got the terrain set up like this because you can't afford it or whatever, doesn't really matter that much, really. We've then got different deployment zones, which is nice. It gives the unit strength of each unit type. Again, very nicely done. One thing that I like is there are more scenarios. However, how do you know how to get the scenario? Do you just choose? How would you roll? They aren't all equal. I mean, there is objective scenarios. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's area scenarios. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 area scenarios. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loot scenarios, and there's 1, 2, 3 bluff token scenarios. So how do you do it? It goes from scenario 1 to scenario 20. So how do you do it randomly? Not entirely sure, if I'm honest. Not entirely sure. On page 75 to 78, we've got clarifications and complex cases. Just what if this happens, or what if this happens, which I think is very nice. Don't really need to go on with that, but it's very much appreciated. On page 82 to 85, we've got the army list building. Now, it's changed a lot. Basically, how it works is you need at least each unit separated into either core, commander, and it's either champion or warlord, support or specialist. There's auxiliary units, which certain core units are auxiliary units, mainly troops and whatnot. And how it shows it here, you've got to have at least 2 core and 1 commander, be it either a warlord or a champion, and you can only have 1 warlord per battalion. That's the main structure of an army, called a battalion. For each core you can have a specialist, and for each core again you can have auxiliary. You can have as many core as you want. You can only have 4 specialists. You can have, for every 2 mix of core and specialist, you can have an extra commander and you can have a support. So for example, for a core and a specialist, you could have a commander and a support. You can only have 4 support per battalion. This, I think, is better overall. A lot of people have complained about spamming units. This was the case in Kings of War since, let's be honest, 1st edition. Although, really, 2nd edition onwards, you could spam units like no one's business. That's never changed, and I'm going to be honest, ain't going to ever change. But I like how they've done this. I like the change. I like how it's done. It's made it a proper army list builder thing. And what's nice is you can do multiple battalions in an army, depending on the type of game. If it's like a legendary game, I suppose you could do it for normal games as well. Have like 2 battalions if you and your opponent decide. So yeah, why not? It goes through things a lot more in detail, which is nice. And then an example of an army, a battalion. It then goes through limited choices. So if a unit's got a number in brackets, then you can only have so many per battalion. If it's got a U next to the name in brackets, then you can only take 1 of them per army, no matter how many battalions you've got. Then we've got the Arcane Library, which is nice there. We've also got this page on page 85, which is Legacy base sizes. This page should not exist as far as I'm concerned. You've got infantry, cavalry, heroes, which is kind of gone over earlier. You've got heavy infantry, which if you're doing it on an individual basis, is kind of on 25mm bases rather than 20. But they just counted as infantry for all intents and purposes. Monstrous infantry are on 50s. Titans are on 75s, and then exceptions is basically how it was before, exceptional base sizes. So that is still a thing. If you've got something that's, say, a Titan that's on, say, an 80 or a 90mm base, fine. Just as long as you and your opponent know what it is, you're golden. Why this page exists, I honestly don't know. A lot of the new models that Mantic have made for Kings of War 4th are either heavy infantry or monstrous infantry. Now, for those of you out there who are worried that should I put my monstrous infantry models on large infantry base sizes, no. Keep them as they are. It's a confusing thing that should have been earlier in the book, where the examples of regiments should have been there. Honestly, it shouldn't have been there at all. It should have given earlier examples of heavy infantry, monstrous infantry, titans, so on and so forth, because they ain't legacy things at all. They still exist. A lot of the new models are these. I don't understand why this page exists. It's not as confusing as or as worrying as the cover thing in 3.5, but should not be. Naughty. On page 89 to just checking my notes. 219 is the army lists. Now, how they are set out, just using the Abyssal Doors as an example, you have a bit of background on the army, with saying a bit on the different units. It then has the 2 commands at the top, and then it goes through the core and auxiliary units, the specialists, the support, then the champions, which, like I say, you have at least 1 commander, either a champion or a warlord. So that's how it goes. And if possible, it does show a little picture of each unit or hero, so you have an idea of what they look like from the model range. And at the bottom it's got nice clear colour pictures of the individual units and models sort of thing. So again, it's clear. What am I using for this unit? It's down here. Easy, simple, like it. Stopping on the Force of Nature just for a minute. The second expansion book is focusing on Force of Nature stuff, so that's why some of the army might seem a bit weird at present. However, looking at it, I think it looks pretty decent. You've got a lot of options on how you want the army to look and the structure and whatnot. I don't understand, however, why there are no naiads in here at all in the Force of Nature list. I understand why there's no salamanders, because the Force of Nature is tied to a deity called the Green Lady. The naiads are part of the Trident realms, which do help the Green Lady out if necessary. Why they're not in this list, I don't know. On page 153 to 158, we've got the Kingdoms of Men. These were in the Uncharted Empires in 3rd edition. It's nice that they're in the main rulebook, although there's no real actual models for them. I mean, there is, but the reason why Mantic haven't done a, well, human army as it were, is that there's so many human models out there, it's just not worth it for them. Although, because the Basilians are human forces, you could use them, and there's also some halfling units in here, so yeah, you could do. One thing to note in a lot of the armies is, if you've played 3rd edition, is that a lot of armies have been absorbed into others and possibly to be updated and whatnot later on. So for example, the Riftforged Orcs have been absorbed into the Orc faction, so you've got both. The Urakin Slaves have been absorbed into the Abyssal Dwarves, so you've got both there. So certain armies will be affected in different ways, and it just means for the most part you'll have more options in that army. There's no ally system anymore. There's no good, evil, neutral, although it would have been nice just to say this army is good, this army is neutral, this army is evil, just for background prosperity. Doesn't really matter, but would have been nice, would have been nice. Next one, just because I do this army, RIP the Crocodile Wranglers for the Ogres. They didn't have any actual models, but would have been nice. The Crocodile models, they're really only usable for the Matsudans now, unless they're going to get updated, which maybe they will in one of the expansion books to come. Who knows? Next stop off is the Undead. Now there's 3 characters for those who know Undead. There is no Mortibris, Morgoth or Jarvis in the Undead list. I don't know why that is. No Mortibris or Jarvis I can somewhat understand due to how it is in here. Morgoth I don't understand why Morgoth isn't here altogether. The 6th expansion book is called Death, so that's possibly why. But nah, don't get it. The main reason why I understand why Mortibris isn't here is the spine, and this is a image from the expansion book from 2nd edition, I believe, because it was tied into the original Dungeon Saga, not Dungeon Saga Origins. No, that's not confusing. Shut up. So that's why, that's how it is, and it'll create a bigger picture for those getting into it, and we'll show the final image when we get to the 6th book, Death. But that's the main reason I'd imagine why Mortibris isn't in the Undead list. Like I say, I don't know why Morgoth isn't, but Yeah. You've got enough to be getting on with, and to be honest, the Undead list is still good. It's still good. On page 222 onwards, we have the background. And for those who are worrying that the artwork from 3rd edition hadn't still be continuously good to 4th or better, you can rest assured now, the artwork is still fantastic. I've said it when I did my review of 3rd edition, and I'll say it again now. Whoever Mantic gets to do their artwork, god damn, they do not pay them well enough, because this, I mean, I'm not saying they pay them badly, because I don't know, because I'm not in their business as such. But what I mean is, this artwork is so good. Look at it. This is not even the best one. This right, we're gonna have to go through some, and this is on the next page. This, just zoom in, this is a battle, I believe, between the Twilight Kin, because you can see the flying skiffs in the background, and this creature, which is definitely a Twilight Kin draconic creature, versus the Empire of Dust, which if we do get a updated Undead Dragon model Mantic, can we have it looking more like this? But ignoring that aside, zooming out, look at the artwork. Look at this battle scene. Mantic, can we start having posters of this stuff? Or just an art book, because god damn, this is good. This picture is from 3rd, but it was on a single page, I believe, but I like how this is. It's not on 2 pages, which is nice, but I like how the fact it's a lot more drawn back, so you can take it all in a lot better. It does look like it's some sort of elven library or something like that, with the grand staircases and whatnot. It might not be, but I interpret it as elven. And this is the map of Panathor, which is the world that Kings of War is set in. This has been expanded. Before it was, if I remember correctly, just this section up here. Now it has been expanded a lot. You can actually get this as a bigger map. It's 10 quid. As I have this on my wall. There's a lot of different stories and whatnot in the background, as you'd expect. A timeline, but it is expanded as it's going through. This is from a novel, and to me it gives off Power Rangers. Instead, the Red Ranger is not the main leader, the Yellow Ranger is. So we've got the White Ranger, the Blue Ranger, the Yellow Ranger, the Red Ranger, and Green Ranger? Furry Ranger? No. Go into more depth of the God War, which it did go into high depth before, but yeah, it's really a big thing. This image I don't like. I honestly don't know why. It might be because of this thing in here contrasts so weirdly with the rest of the image, but I know it's just an image that, of all the Kings of War ones, I just really don't like. I don't know why, and I think it's just personal preference more than anything else. It works as an art piece, don't get me wrong, it's just nah. Again, this is an image from 3rd edition, and this was 2 page as well, but this needed to be at least on 1 page, or half page as it is here. I think it's an elven city, although I am not entirely sure. The reason why I love this piece of artwork, and it's one of my favourite, is because the absurdity of it just... Has the city been sunken in? Is this rising up? How does it work? It's just... It shouldn't work, and yet it does at the same time. It just confuses the hell out of me, and I just love it. We've got this double page picture of some orcs going to war. You've got a Crudger or Stormcaller, it could be. getting them to go forward, rallying the forces to march on some giant beast creature, and then some thunder seers, I believe they're called, as well, and the shrine over there. It's a really nice piece, and it's not using blacks and greys and them sort of colours. It's using red tones, which you don't really think of that for orcs or any of them sort of creatures. No. And there's usually a bit of green in there, usually as well. Not usually like reds. So, yeah, this is really nicely done. Really nice. Next we come on to the rise of a new power, the Zakali Empire, which will go into more detail when we come on to the review of the first expansion book. But for now, this piece of artwork is really well done. This gives you a good first impression to how the Zakali stuff looks, be it the models or anything else. We've got a Zakali warrior. We've got a Yan monk. Yes, Zakali don't just have dog people, they have humans too. They also have rangers, canine rangers. Of course, at the back we've got some basic stuff of advertising. We've got 2 QR codes on how to customise your army, buy stuff, and well, actually no. This thing at the top is buy stuff. This thing is to use the companion app. Now, just note here, this is if you don't pay for the subscription, you can save 2 armies, and you can download your army list so you can scrap the saved armies and create more. Also give you the stats and whatnot for the armies. So having the rule book is good, so it means you don't have to pay for a subscription if you don't want. You can do if you want. It does mean also you don't have to pay for the expansion book. The expansion book is mainly for lore and whatnot. So the 4 armies in the expansion book, Trident Realms, Zakali, Salamanders and Halflings, you will be able to essentially use for free if you've got the rule book. If you haven't got the rule book, then you will have to pay for the on the companion app to find out what magic items, spells, specials and different scenarios and such like is. Other than that, you're basically getting everything free anyway. So it is, I believe, £4 or somewhere around that. Might be a £5 for each game, or it's at the minute £10 for 4 games. It might be 5 games by now. I think it's 5 games, but yeah, I just have it where I've got the rule book, so I'll not pay for the companion app. But if you just want it all digital, then just go with that road. It just means you don't have to pay for the rule book. And down here we've got the QR code to take you to where to get the different novels. Yes, Mantic do have their own novels for the different games they do. So yeah, so there you go. The 4th edition rules. Are they good? Well, I think so overall. There's something that's a little bit confusing, but nothing that's gonna break your game. Like I say, if you've got the companion app and you don't want to pay for it, get the rulebook and you're set, really. The artwork is of a high quality, as good as the 3rd edition artwork, and in some cases a bit better. It depends on what you look for. The lore has been increased substantially, although I would have liked to have a bit more in the army sections, a bit more background. I just would have liked that a bit more, but that's just me. The whole page on legacy base sizes makes no sense. Majority of the models in the 2-player starter set are either monstrous infantry or heavy infantry, which why would you have that page and have that in the 2-player starter set? Shouldn't have been a thing. Should not have been a thing. But other than that little tangent, I think it's pretty decent. The rulebook goes for £37.50, which I think a rulebook I think anything up to like 40 quid is fine for a rule book. Anything more, then we're starting to get a little bit, but you know, it's fine. I think the changes that have been done are really well, and I look forward to getting some games in. Put in the comments below what you think of the rules, and you know, say what you think and whatnot. But it just means I'll get to do some more Lisping faction videos, which I like doing them. Maybe I'll do the little skits at the start again. Don't count on it, but we'll see. We'll see. Other than that, thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.